Look, I've got star-themed things going on, you see? For our piece today. It's like Disney Channel. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This week I have a piece to share with you that I'm really excited about. It is called the Cosmic Destroyer. It's got a sci-fi fantasy feeling to it. I spent a long time on this piece, so make sure that you stick around to watch the whole video so that you can see the process as it developed. Make sure to like the video if you like it, and make sure to subscribe so that you can stay updated with all the stuff that I post. Prints of this piece are available on my store for a limited time. Be sure to check the link in the bio so that you can go and get yourself or someone you know a print. Thanks so much. All right, now let's get into the speed paint. So this piece started with a sketch in my sketchbook that was of an entirely different subject. I was doing some studies of characters and different poses, and I did this one pose of this girl wearing like an oversized jacket, like leaning. I really liked the drawing that I did. So at first I was just gonna take this, put it into Procreate, and then develop like this specific sketch more. But then I started having this idea of adding like angel wings or something to the character. I didn't want to do just a like traditional, like pretty sort of angel. I wanted there to be something different about it. So I tried to do this kind of, I don't know, angel that's wearing like street fashion clothing and has a halo that's an atom, which is a cool idea, like a halo that's an atom. I'm sure it's been done before. But I put them in kind of this leaning pose, and then I had the idea to connect the hands. So through like a gelatinous, fibrous jelly. I liked this pose, and also, yeah, I developed the face a little bit, and this was a very like a more cartoon leaning style, just a lot more stylized. And I liked it, but I had this feeling that I wanted to go for something that was more detailed. I wanted to go for something that was had more human-like proportions. So I shot reference of myself because, again, the character that I was drawing had a lot of clothes on in the picture, and I wanted to get a better sense of like the form of the body. So yeah, I shot my own reference and then used that to create a more detailed sketch of the specific like anatomy. I also started with using like my body shape to create the form, but then I decided I wanted a character that was more like curvy, had more like volume to their body. So I just used my body as like a framework. I sketched on some quick wings. I looked up references on Pinterest, on what else other than Pinterest? What else is there other than Pinterest? I guess just Pinterest. I used that to help me understand more about wings. And in the end, I strayed really far from the exact anatomy of wings. Like I made them a lot more piecemeal than actual wings, but this was just a good starting point. And then after I had this detailed sketch, I started fixing some of the anatomy so that it was more like curvy, more of like a full figure. I started adding back in some of the details that I had in my first more cartoon-like sketch. So I connected the hands, I added the wings, and then on top of that, I started developing the face a little bit, and I also started adding various objects to the wings. So it's a cluster of all different sorts of materials that are like, it's like a pile of junk. She's this like collection of a bunch of random space garbage and things. She can like travel through time and space. So she can just be like made of all these random things, like all these random different experiences, all these random different things that she's gone through or kind of have become a part of her body. I filled everything with this deep gray color so that I'd have a flat color to work on and use clipping masks over. I tweaked the proportions yet again, and then I added in basic gradients. So I started with this gradient up from the bottom that was pale, and I used a darker gradient on the face because I wanted the face to be a bit more sinister. And then I started with this idea of having like an orb in the background. And I stepped away from that idea for a while, but then that idea came back again, and you'll see that. Then I started airbrushing in some highlights onto the face and the chest of the character to start designing some lighting sources. Yeah, I just stayed really soft in the beginning. I added shadows into the wings to kind of show how they separate from the back. And yeah, I transformed the wings a lot. At first they were a lot bigger, but I wanted still more emphasis on the character. Like, I didn't want it to be all on the wings. I tweaked the hair some more, got the hair to a place that I was a lot happier with it. I tried to focus on the planes in the hair a lot, break it down more geometrically than make it super soft. I wanted it to be a bit harder, a bit more plastic feeling, while still having flow to it. So I tried to balance that. Next, I had this idea to, first of all, add the orb in the background that I had before back in, because I liked that it focused your eye more on the center of the piece. And then I also decided to add this secondary orb like up higher in the top left corner. And I think that at the moment it just felt right, but looking back on it, I'm able to see like kind of why I did that. So if you look, the character's arms are skewed down and to the right corner. And so visually your eye wants to like balance that in the top left with an object. So creating that sort of like triangle shape is always really satisfying to the eye. So I think that my eye was just like looking for something to create that kind of bottom heavy shape. I came up with this vine metallic thing to wrap the character's chest. And I did some more like nonsensical shapes on it. I played around with the background color a bunch of times. For a while, I had it this kind of sea green color. I think that this looks really nice, but it also softens the piece more than I wanted. I didn't want it to be so colorful and inviting. I wanted it to be a little bit more muted. This is the point where everything started really coming together for me. I continued to like play with the background over and over, changed my mind a bunch of times, and then I started developing the face more. And like I said in the last video that I made, the face is super important. Like, if I feel like if I don't get the face right, it's just, I might as well just kiss the entire piece goodbye. Yeah, so I worked on the face and I tried to make it this kind of intimidating look by adding in dark shadows on like the underneath the hair, like over the eyes and stuff. And then I added a lot of lighting in this phase, so making things look even more metallic, more shiny, more intense, more dramatic. And I added some textures to the orbs, to the circles in the back, and I decided they were going to be kind of like suns, like stars, you know? And so I added textures to kind of recreate that star look. And I also added in flares, so lighting effects that are kind of coming out from the center. Then I took those star shapes and I decided I wanted to kind of meld this idea of celestial objects with more like metal industrial feeling textures. So I kind of tried to make it the shapes in the background look like a cross between metal and stars, if that makes any sense at all. I really don't know how to describe it, but I wanted that kind of effect. And so I boosted a lot of the shadows and the highlights using add layers like always. And I also created this kind of darker border around the different circles, and I added a third mini circle all the way in the top left to create threes, and then like little dots and stuff too. But yeah, and then I added this darker border, just kind of like an Art Nouveau reference. But it was generally just because I thought it was punchier and nicer looking. Then I added clothing onto the body of the figure, and so I went for this kind of black, like, I don't know what you'd call it. It's like this black bodysuit type thing with cutouts, because I really liked how the cutouts, the round shapes of the cutouts kind of reflected the round shapes in the body. So I wanted to just push that idea. The finishing stages of this piece took a long time. I added an earring to the ear of the character just because it felt barren to me. It felt like it needed something. I added in more details into some of the objects on the wings just to define them a bit. I messed with the metallic and highlights of objects more, making them more intense, more in your face. I added a knitted texture to the clothing, really small. I also fixed more lighting around the lower half of the character's body to help define the shapes more. And then I added these like fractals, these fractals that like shoot forward at you. I'll take the chromatic aberration and I will blur it. Well, okay, so what I do is I make a layer. No, I don't make a layer. I'm lying. What I do is I duplicate the layer that I have the artwork on, and then I create a chromatic aberration of that layer. And then I blur it, and then I lower the opacity a little bit, and then I change it to hue or color, depending on which looks best. And then usually I'll boost the saturation as well. And then I'll just I'll play with the opacity until I like how it looks. But this just adds more color along the edges of things, makes the entire piece feel more dynamic, more colorful. I love color variation personally. So to me, this is just like a nice finishing step. And then I also added some blurring effects. Blurring here, there, blur, 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 blur. And this is the finished piece. Make sure you check out the link in the bio. I have prints for sale of this piece. She's like this kind of cosmic being that has the power to destroy the solar system. That's kind of the character that I ended up with. When all the work was behind me, I was left with this character in front of me. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Would you burn it? Would you buy a print from me and then light it on fire and then ask for a refund? I need to know. And also do not do that because you will not be receiving one. You will not. Thank you so much for watching this video. It means a lot to me, and I will see you next week. All right, bye. El adaptador. Oh, hell. I stepped on my makeup.